I was 63 when I learned that the people smiling at me across a wedding reception were quietly planning to erase me. They believed one fake medical report and a few carefully staged moments of confusion would be enough to convince everyone that I had lost my mind. Once I was declared incompetent, they planned to take the beach house my late husband and I had built together, along with everything else I owned. They thought grief had made me weak. They had no idea they had just started the biggest mistake of their lives. The woman behind it all was my new daughter-in-law, Madison Carter, who had just married my only son, Ethan. During the reception, I accidentally overheard her telling a friend that they only needed a few more incidents before they could have me committed. She even mentioned a memory test she had convinced me to take months earlier, saying it would become the evidence they needed. I smiled through the rest of the evening, but the moment I got outside, I recorded a message explaining exactly what I had heard. If anything happened to me, there would already be proof that I was expecting it. Looking back, the warning signs had always been there. Madison slowly pushed me away from Ethan, took control of his finances, convinced him I was becoming forgetful, and constantly offered to help with my legal papers, bank accounts, and investments. After the wedding, an old acquaintance quietly told me Madison had done something similar to an elderly relative years before. The man had lost his home after trusting her, then ended up in a memory care facility while she disappeared without consequences. Live. Instead of confronting her, I started collecting evidence. I reviewed emails, bank records, medical files, and every conversation I could remember. When I visited the clinic where I had taken the memory test, I discovered that Madison had signed documents as my caregiver and added misleading notes suggesting I was showing signs of cognitive decline. It was not enough to diagnose dementia, but it was enough to begin a legal guardianship case. I hired my longtime attorney and secretly put both of my properties up for sale before anyone could touch them. Then I contacted a private investigator named Claire Morgan. As we dug deeper, we uncovered several elderly victims across different states who described almost identical experiences. Madison had used different last names each time, pretending to be a caring friend or advisor before convincing vulnerable seniors to sign away control of their finances. Once their assets were secure, they were declared mentally unstable and quietly removed from their own lives. Before we could expose her, Madison made her move. She arrived at my home with my son, a psychiatrist, and a nurse, claiming they wanted to evaluate my mental health. I knew exactly what was happening, so I pretended to cooperate. They placed me in a psychiatric facility for observation, believing they had finally won. Instead, I met another elderly woman who described the very same scheme and even recognized Madison under one of her previous identities. Her testimony became another critical piece of evidence. After doctors confirmed that I was completely mentally healthy, I invited Ethan and Madison to dinner. During the meal, I carefully guided the conversation until Madison proudly admitted she had manipulated several elderly people because she believed they were incapable of making their own decisions. She even confessed she planned to do the same to me. Hidden recorders captured every word. Seconds later, Claire walked into my dining room with police officers. Madison was arrested for elder abuse, financial fraud, conspiracy, and falsifying medical records. My son sat in complete shock as he realized he had spent years believing lies. For the first time, he understood that I had never been the problem. Madison eventually pleaded guilty after investigators connected her to multiple victims across several states. I sold the homes she had tried to steal, moved into a peaceful oceanfront condo, and finally found the quiet life my husband always wanted for me. Ethan began therapy, rebuilt our relationship, and slowly became the son I remembered. Months later, another young woman contacted me, convinced her stepmother was using the same tactics against her father. This time, I knew exactly what to look for. Working with Claire, we gathered evidence before another family could be destroyed. We stopped the fraud before it claimed another victim. I realized that my greatest victory was never revenge. It was refusing to let fear silence me. They tried to erase my name with a forged signature, but instead they exposed a criminal network, reunited my family, and reminded me that growing older does not make a person powerless. Sometimes experience is the strongest weapon of all, and the truth always finds its way into the light.